Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Two brothers in their 50s who are unable to take care of themselves are found dead in their home. There's been a surge in the number of child abuse cases, according to police. And 8 children are among patients who are seriously ill with the onset of the flu season. Welfare Chief Chris Sun has vowed more help for those in need after 2 brothers with intellectual disabilities were found dead in their flat in Sao Mau Ping estate. It's suspected that the 2 men in their 50s starved to death after their mother was admitted to hospital in May. Chloe Fang reports.
The case came to light yesterday when a peculiar smell alerted security staff of Sao Wei House in Sao Mau Ping estate. Police were alerted, and when they broke into the flat, they found the bodies of 2 men in the living room. They were identified as brothers aged 53 and 55. Both had intellectual difficulties. It's understood that they were unable to take care of themselves, and their condition worsened since May when their mother was hospitalized because of illness. Other relatives used to visit them, but they only spoke through the door and were not invited in. This neighbor said in an interview that the 2 men were friendly to each other and usually seemed happy. I could always hear them chatting and laughing in the hallway, the neighbor said. A preliminary investigation suggested that the men had starved to death. Autopsies will be carried out. Welfare Chief Chris Sun expressed sadness over the deaths. He said that there was no record of the family seeking assistance from the Social Welfare Department or other social organizations. Sun said the government is highly concerned and will step up efforts to provide more care, including setting a hotline for caregivers to offer assistance to those in need. He also urged people to seek help if they need it and encouraged neighbors to enhance communications between themselves. Chloe Fan, HKIBC.
There were 716 child abuse cases in Hong Kong in the first 8 months of the year, 30% more than the same period last year. Deputy Police Commissioner Joe Chow said there were more reports of physical punishment after the resumption of in-person classes. Chow said work on legislation for the mandatory reporting of child abuse cases is nearly completed. Officers will be trained to investigate and handle complaints concerning children. 8 children are among the 120 people who have become seriously ill since the start of the flu season a month ago. This prompted health expert David Hui to urge people to get jabs for flu as well as for COVID, as the virus has been making a comeback in some countries. Chloe Fang reports.
Chinese University epidemiologist David Hui is urging people who received flu jabs 6 months ago to get another one to reduce the risk of complications. This came as the Center for Health Protection said 8 children were among the 121 serious cases that occurred since the start of the flu season in mid-August. Only 2 of the 8 children had been vaccinated, Hui noted. He said unvaccinated people in vulnerable groups have a greater chance of infection following the reopening of the border and the end of the mask mandate. Some children with serious infections might be hospitalized for a long period of time, Hui warned, adding that they could develop pulmonary fibrosis and other long-term complications. The latest round of the influenza vaccination subsidy scheme will be launched on Thursday, with jabs administered in schools and care homes starting in early October. We noted a surge in COVID infections and deaths on the mainland, South Korea, Italy, and Russia, and warned that Hong Kong could be affected in November and December. We urged the elderly and people with immune disorders to get new COVID jabs. Clifton, HKIBC.
An explosion triggered a fire at a power station on Lama early this morning, but no one was injured. Firefighters and Marine police were called to tackle the blaze, which started at a coal loading machine at about 5 a.m. It took 3.5 hours to contain the fire. Hong Kong Electric said power supply was stable during the incident. The power station was also hit by a fire in February. The cause of the latest blaze is being investigated. At least 5 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in a massive fire in southern Taiwan. The blaze at a golf ball factory in Pingtung County began last night. Explosions followed and the inferno raged overnight. 3 firefighters were among the dead and 5 people are unaccounted for. The cause of the blaze is not known, but the authorities say the explosions, which occurred during the firefighting operation, may have been triggered by leaking gas. County officials have offered help to those affected by the tragedy. Overseas, U.S. Senator Bob Menendez insists that he will not resign after being charged with accepting bribes to help the Egyptian government.
The indictment alleges that Senator Menendez used his power and influence, including his leadership role on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to benefit the government of Egypt in various ways. Among other actions, Senator Menendez allegedly provided sensitive, non-public U.S. government information to Egyptian officials and otherwise took steps to secretly aid the government of Egypt.
Menendez and his wife are expected to appear in court next week after investigators found gold bars and $600,000 US in cash in their home. The couple are accused of accepting bribes to help Cairo and 3 businessmen. Menendez is a close ally of President Joe Biden, and should he go, the Democrats could lose their slim Senate majority. More drugs have been found in a New York City daycare center where a toddler died and 3 others fell ill from opioid exposure last week.
I may not have given birth to them. I may not have been the parent that sent them to that daycare center, but every single person in this county feels what those parents feel, that they entrusted that daycare center to take care of their children.
Detectives searched an apartment in the U.S. city and found bags containing the synthetic opioid fentanyl and other drugs. The narcotics were hidden near a shelf filled with toys. Drug residue was found under a mat where the children took naps during the day. The operator of the daycare center and a tenant of the building have been arrested and charged with murder. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made a surprise visit to Canada, where he received another aid package.
Canada trains our guys, our soldiers, our warriors. Canada gives weapons to Ukraine to move forward, to push back Russia. And I thank you for this.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau offered Ukraine an additional $500 million to buy armored vehicles that will be built in Canada. Zelensky was in Toronto after visiting Washington, where he was also given more aid. He might also have a bonus. After initially refusing to equip Ukraine with long-range missiles, media reports say the United States is reversing its decision. A senior European Union official is visiting China to press for a balance in trade.
Broadening access to China's market for foreign companies and maintaining a stable business environment is necessary to ensure fair and mutually beneficial trade relationships. It is also necessary to maintain our mutual trust as partners working together to address a number of global challenges. But let me stress, the risking is not decoupling, and the EU has no intention to decouple from China.
The EU trade chief said the bloc has a $430 billion trade deficit with China. The Europeans are trying to narrow the gap and recently claimed that the subsidies are making Chinese electric vehicles cheaper. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be sunny with some showers. Temperatures will range between 28 and 32 degrees, staying the same early in the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Saturday night. Stay tuned to HKIBC for the opening ceremony of the Asian Games in Hangzhou. I'm Azam Khan. Good evening.